It's recording.
Welcome.
Welcome. Yes, this
Welcome.
is our pilot podcast for an unnamed episode well, no, maybe the episode has a name, but the podcast certainly doesn't have a name yet. I'm John with a J. This is my co-host.
Ray. I'm Ray.
And here,
I'm just Ray.
And here we are today working this thing out, and maybe someday someone gets to see this. Maybe just the two of us see this, and it forever stays in the vault. Who knows? Who cares? It's what we're doing. So the premise of our podcast is to, well, Ray, do you want to talk about what our idea was?
Well, our idea is basically just take the teachings of various spiritual gurus, motivational speakers, self-help experts. Take a teaching, review it, and then give you our honest, raw review of what we think some of the teachings that are good, that could be, applied to our daily lives to make it better. But if we think it's BS, we'll tell you it's BS too. We'll tell you what we like and we don't like, and
and hopefully
hold nothing back.
And hopefully we'll hold nothing back, as Ray said, and we'll certainly not always agree, because that'll make for good broadcasting. And we'll even explore, I think you said, I think it's a great idea, to investigate, expose, or otherwise, even the nut jobs, the lunatics out there. I mean, from our perspective, that we think are just holy shit over the top insane, whether they're evangelists or just public speaking icons of one kind or another, whatever. Fun folks we find on the internet. And maybe you love them, maybe we loathe them, maybe we find common ground in the middle. And I think that's a really cool platform.
And one thing we want to, encourage our viewers, our fans, to let us know if there's a teacher you want us to look into, a certain teaching or whatever, let us know, and, we'll look into it. We want to hear your feedback, because we don't know everyone who is out there, and, let us know.
Absolutely. And we are wide open for feedback, for, as Ray said, ideas for people to investigate, explore, dive into together. Also, comments really drive this engine and really elevate the visibility of a podcast or anything on social media. So please engage and allow us to do the same with you, keeping in mind being respectful of each other, and John with a J and Ray as well, because really, come on. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't waste the time. If you have something constructive to offer, and if you disagree with us, that's great. Let's talk and see where we can meet, or see what we can bring, illuminate as far as opinions are concerned, and I don't know, find a place or a space that we could say, oh, I understand what you're saying, or oh, wow, I never looked at it that way. But if you're going to be an idiot.
I like to use that word, illuminate. Maybe that could be something we could work with as a title.
Yes, I actually had some ideas. We could talk after the recording too, is some things that I thought of. There's this really interesting thing in our house that gave me an idea, and it's connected to a light. And I was like, I think Ray would like this. And so, yeah, bookmark though. And but yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
So let's go into the first guy we want to talk about today. We chose was Eckhart Tolle. And this video that we reviewed had over 1.5 million views. And, Eckhart's probably one of the most popular teachers out there right now. He's the author of Power of Now and New Earth. I remember he had his awakening when he was younger. He was depressed. And I believe it was something like, who is the I that is depressed? Or who is the I that cannot stand to be with himself? And he saw it was like the subject object, and who is the I? And he went into that, had his awakening. And then since then, he's, done a bunch of lectures, wrote books, and he's huge, been on Oprah a bunch of times. And I think this video was like how to trust, whether you should trust your feelings and intuition.
Yeah, I think it was posed as a question. I think it was, can you trust your feelings and intuition? I think that was it.
Or intuition. What he said, intuition.
Oh, yes, intuition. Yeah, I like the way he said it. It was kind of fun. I'm like, what did he say?
What's an intuition?
I was like, God bless you. And yeah, we'll put the link below so that you can check it out, certainly. We're not doing reactionary videos where we bring clips up or watch it together. It's 25 minutes long, I think,
Yeah.
roughly, give or take. So, yeah, I mean, if you're ready, we'll just jump right in. I'll tell you this. I've read one of his books. That was The Power of Now. And I've been given several of his books and just put it to the side. I'll get to it on the pile, the to-do list. I've never watched a single video, interview, or anything. It's just slipped. He's been an elusive little sucker. And I say little because he is kind of a small man. And
yeah, he was wearing those vests.
oh yeah, I had to. I was like, is he wearing a sweater vest? I looked. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, it is. And he's really, I don't know. He has this presence to him that's almost. I'm trying to come up with the right word.
Like, he's almost like Yoda.
Yes, like I was gonna say like a little gnome or a little goblin type of thing. He's got like there's almost that reptilian element about him a little bit, but not in an aggressive, dominant, scary way, but in an adorable, like really Jedi cute kind of way. I don't know. It was just I was fascinated. I had to rewind a few times because I got caught up in just his stage presence, and I know his message is predominantly be here now, in the moment, be present, from the little bit that I know and the echoes that I've heard and the persuasions that have been whispered into my ear. It's always his teachings are about being present. Yes? No? Am I wrong?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. There's a lot of it. A lot of it is knowing the true self versus the ego. I see Eckhart as basically. I think a lot of what he is. He is Zen for people who don't know what Zen is. It's basically that's what his teachings are. His teachings are pretty much basic Zen. I mean, nothing he really says is anything really new to me. Mm-hmm. Those teachings have been around for hundreds, thousands of years, but he does it in a way that's, a different platform, but people who never really heard those teachings before. I've read both Power of Now and New Earth. Power of Now, I feel like that could have been like 2 pages.
I
felt like almost like he ripped off a little bit of Ram Dass's book, Be Here Now, which was, written a couple decades earlier.
Oh, there we go.
But I think New Earth was I liked that book a lot. That book, that was kind of like when I was kind of starting my spiritual journey, which, you could say we're always been on a spiritual journey, but that kind of, woke me up a little bit, that book, it kind of exposed how the ego works and how the ego tricks and everything else. So that was a pretty enlightening book for me. For me, Eckhart, I love reading his books. Like his book, like New Earth was really good. I like reading what he has to say. And I believe, everything he says is spot on. But I cannot hardly get through watching him without wanting to fall asleep. And actually, did you notice around the 12-minute mark, there was someone snoring?
No, really?
Yeah. If you listen to get around between the 12 and 13-minute mark, you hear.
Oh shit! Oh my God, that could have been me. Because I was struggling, man. I wasn't in the audience though.
You know what Eckhart Tolle is to me? He is the Bob Dylan of spirituality.
Whoa.
Bob Dylan wrote these great songs, great lyrics, but I can't listen to it.
right. You like change the style.
What he has to say, to say is great, but but actually listening as like if I went to a retreat or a seminar, maybe, bring me the monster, bring me the Red Bull.
We're already ringing the bell of like a very, very significant portion of the world, because people love Bob. People love Bob, man. People he's a prophet. He's one of the greatest of all times. But here's the second instance. I already totally agree with you. The Power Now 2-page book. Bob Dylan. I don't know if I've ever. And I love music. I love every genre of music. I used to work in a music store. I loved singing when I was younger. I freestyle now. I play multiple instruments. I'm going to get a lot of flack for this. I've never listened to a complete Bob Dylan song. I've always changed it, fast forward it, hit shuffle again. What is it? Do I need to be more stoned? I've never listened to Bob Dylan stoned, though. Maybe that's it. Maybe I need to.
Well, I'm sure you've listened to what All Along the Watchtower by Jimi Hendrix. That song. That was a Bob Dylan song.
I'm trying to think if I've ever listened to that song in its entirety. Like, maybe I just
You
haven't
know the
done enough
song.
hardcore drugs. I don't know,
We,
man.
we know the you do you know the song, the Jimi Hendrix song, Along the Watchtower.
Yeah. But I don't know. Again, I could be guilty
Yeah,
of
yeah,
never listening to that whole song.
maybe. I don't know. I mean, he wrote a lot of songs. Like a lot of people covered his songs,
Yeah.
and I think people covered his songs made him better. You know,
Mm,
he's a great one, probably one of the best songwriters, but performer, singer.
yeah.
And then to me, that's what kind of like Eckhart is. His message is great. I agree with pretty much 100% of what he says. It's just that I don't listening to him talk live. It's like kind of a
Yeah.
video. It's hard to focus and pay attention the whole time.
Which is a really good point because you know what we forgot to do? Talk about the video. So,
Oh,
so back to the task at hand here. Um, can I trust my feelings and intuition? And right when when you sent me, hey, let's try this one. It's got 1,000,000+ views. I'm like, all right, great start. Let's do it. When I read the title, I was like, I know my answer already. Like, it doesn't matter what he says. I'm gonna listen because that's what this podcast is all about, and learning new things and exploring new ideas and coming together and hearing each other and really just soaking it in. So I'm gonna play it. And man, like you said, it was a struggle. I like the anecdote that he told about the person that was renting the room in his house.
yeah.
And we don't want to give everything away here, but I really I appreciated that. But this is I say where I disagree. This is where I don't really entirely connect to what he's saying. When he's talking about how she initially was like, "This isn't going to work for me," but because of his approach, and she didn't receive the typical approach that she thought she would, that that kind of changed her mind the next day, and she's like, "I want to stay."
I
Right?
don't think that had anything to do with it, really. I don't know. I mean, I don't think why would that make her change his reaction, unless she was trying to like get a reaction out of him. Like why
See,
would that?
and my contention there would have been that she trusted her feeling, right? Follow me on this. She trusted her feeling and she expressed them to him and said, I just have a bad feeling about staying here. And because she did that and she trusted that feeling, he gave her information that made her want to stay. If she didn't trust that feeling and she didn't share that with him, then she would have never had that opportunity for him to be the way he was, to show himself in this.
Do you think it's because he accepted her feelings instead of being in resistance to them? So
That's
instead of he allowed those feelings for her to express those feelings, and then maybe because she was allowed to express it, once it kind of came out, it was like, maybe it didn't, instead of putting up a wall like you bitch, you what, and
yeah,
and that would have caused her to react, her anger would have come up to
right. Like
try
I
to
knew,
justify.
right. Like I knew it. I knew it.
Like,
I
look,
knew it.
I was right. I was right. You know what? My feelings are right. Like that. I am getting out of here. Where he just allowed it, was like, oh, okay, no problem. It kind of like, I don't think he changed it. I think just him accepting her feelings allowed that to. It gave her, he gave her space, and it was like, and once that kind of like came out, whatever the true feelings or the true whatever, how she felt, was it gave her space for that other to come out, whatever,
Right.
you know, wherever that is.
And as I'm hearing you explain it the way you are, and then just hearing it as I was sharing it as well, I'm also thinking that you could track it to, okay, but was her feelings wrong because he's actually not a creep, and she can feel safe there? Maybe you could look at it that way, but I mean, I also come from the camp of all of our feelings are valid. So by
Well, they're valid. I think all feelings are valid, but not all are. I don't know how to say it.
right or wrong.
Yeah, I mean,
But
so I mean, like if everybody went and acted on every feeling they ever had, if I acted on every feeling I ever had, I'd be in prison right now because I probably would have.
it's the third thing that we agree on.
So just because you have the feelings doesn't mean you're. I think what it comes in is mindfulness and allowing those feelings to come up, but not necessarily acting on them, allowing it. Because what he says too is a lot of feelings come up between the feelings and the intuition. Some feelings come up based on our prior traumas. Like let's say somebody could subconsciously remind you of, let's say you had a bad relationship with your father growing up and he was like abusive towards you, and you meet somebody, let's say you're a spouse's dad or somebody else at work. It could remind you of your dad that abused you, even on a subconscious level, and you may feel like hate towards him, and you may want to be like this, but really that's coming from a place of trauma.
Yeah.
And the more conscious you are, the more mindful you are, you'll realize, okay, yeah, these feelings are there, but is it really, am I just projecting that? Am I
Right.
projecting this hate on him because he reminds me of somebody that hurt me from the past?
Well, and that's why you didn't go to prison, because you before you acted on your feelings, you allowed them, you sat with them, and
Right.
you gave them the space to love them and understand them. And he does make that point in his own words and terminology here and there, is that, if we just take the time to, breathe into the moment and into these feelings, versus just saying, oh, I have this bad feeling, or I have this horrible, like, what is it really saying to me? And I think you've echoed the word a few times, and I'll say it again. It's that allowance
Yeah.
of things just being. So can we trust our feelings? Can we trust our intuition? Um, I think that if you don't explore those things, and there's a word I've said a lot on this podcast today, if we don't explore those things that come up and we bulldoze them, or we just dismiss them or whatever, then we can't find out the real truth to what our perception is, and what does ultimately feel and is safe for us. So yeah, I
And like I told you before, we've had this discussion, before. Intuition is when my girlfriend was cheating on me. My intuition was completely right. She was cheating on me, but I denied my intuition because I was in denial, because I thought, there's no way this girl would ever cheat on me. There's no way. This girl's a good girl, trustworthy. Everybody sees her as, not just me, everybody sees her as this angel. And, when things were coming up and I saw her next, I'm like, nah, she can't be cheating. There's nothing there. I mean, I'm just being jealous. I'm just letting jealous feelings come up, seeing her and her ex at the party together talking, and they were very close, and it brought that. I knew there was something there. And it was like, and she denied it. I was like, even when she, denied it, but I was like, it still sat in my stomach, like something's not right. Something's not right. But I didn't trust it. If I would have trusted my feelings 100%, maybe I wouldn't have gone on. This whole thing wouldn't have lasted another whole month or so,
and
and
you
I would have
said,
just been like, I would have.
yeah, man. And you just said, I had this feeling in my stomach. And that's where the trust your gut phrase comes from, man. Cliche as it may be. Like, I have to briefly share this, because I teach my daughter this and have taught her. She's 24 now, but I've always taught her to trust your intuition. And uh, okay, let me just cut it to the chase here and just say that she was in high school, like junior year, and her friend were walking behind this young man that had, like, the shorts falling off of him or whatever, like you could see his underwear type of thing, the style, wannabe gangster, whatever he was doing. And she only remembers this part of it because it was just right in front of her. But the two of them were talking about something that had nothing to do with this boy. And so they're laughing, they're giggling, and he turns around and he looks at them, and she said, Dad, he looked at us in a way where I looked at my friend, and she said, I feel like your voice, like, possessed me. And I said to her, run. And we both went in opposite directions. And she was freaked out. I was freaked out. She didn't hesitate. She heard this thunderous voice from me, and we ran. And I said, okay. And I said, what happened? She said, nothing. That was it. One day later, okay? And this story is coming to me in reverse, but I'm telling it in the way it had happened, right? One day later, my daughter loves school. She's an artist. She goes to school all the time. She doesn't want to miss school. Doesn't have a lot of friends or whatever, but it wasn't important to her. It was like the art. It was a really good art program at the public school she was going to. She decided to stay home. She was not sick. She just told her mom, she's like, I just want, she didn't think anything bad was going to happen, but she had this feeling in her stomach that just was weird. And she's just like, I just want to stay home. And like I said, she didn't feel like anything bad was going to happen. Nothing to do with this boy the previous day or anything like that, whatever. And she stayed home. My ex-wife, her mom, was very supportive of that because she goes to school all the time. She's like, are you sure? She's like, yeah, I just don't want to go. She didn't fight her saying, well, there has to be something wrong with her. She just said, okay, which was a beautiful gift because that day was a school shooting and it was that boy. And he shot some kids. And what if my daughter was there the day after her and her friend were laughing at him, but they weren't even laughing at him, right? But what if she was there? I mean, she would clearly probably be another target, right? So
Sure.
Trust your gut, trust your instinct, your intuition. Even if you're wrong, it's worth exploring and
Right.
allowing to feel into what is there. Did she know that there was going to be a school shooting? Specifically, no. But she stayed home and she's still alive.
Yeah. Wow. That's a great story.
But
What if her and her friend didn't run when he turned around? Maybe he had a gun on him then.
right.
Maybe he would have shot both or done something or harmed them.
And here's the difference between him and you and me. We're not in jail, right? He acted on his feet. He turned around and before taking a breath, he assumed that they were laughing at, and he turned around in fury. He turned around in a way that Eckhart could have faced his tenant and said, are you kidding me? I just paid money for this, but he met her with grace and space and said, I understand, which is very hard to do. I mean, especially if, he paid for the ad and maybe it's not a lot of money or whatever. And the inconvenience of interviewing all these people. And now he gets someone, she's like, I don't feel it. I mean, most people would be pissed. And maybe inside he really was pissed, but he breathed into that anger and gave himself a moment. And you can do that just in a breath, I think, and just turn around and go, hey, what are you girls laughing at? Oh, we were just talking about Miss So-and-so. And here's the funny thing. Oh my God, yeah, she's such a biatch or whatever. The three of them became friends in that moment versus targets for a school shooting because he could have been like, oh, that bitch is riding me like every day. She's like, oh yeah, she had a piece of gum stuck to her.
I want to talk about something else that he says in that video too that kind of goes with that. Is he was talking about how the ego will always create a story and add on stuff. Like that guy could have heard your daughter and her friend laughing, and whatever he was dealing with before that day, he could be like that could have added on to the, like a mountain of stuff that added to that story. Look, everyone's laughing. Look, that person laughed at me too because of da 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 da, and making a connection between different events that didn't even really have nothing to do with each other. Or creating, he's just creating the stack of like, and that once that stack got big enough, his feelings were, you know what, I'm gonna take these people out.
That's that overlay too, man. That when we you're familiar with that term, right?
Yeah, maybe you can refresh some of the people what it means.
The overlay is when we see a situation and then we project all of our fears, our paranoia, whatever, onto it, or even our imagination. Doesn't have to be in a bad way. A good example is when, if you've ever seen the movie The Wedding Singer, and Adam Sandler walks up to go profess his love to Drew Barrymore, and she's in the window, and she's actually talking into a mirror, pretending to be Miss Robbie Hart, and it sounds so good, and all he sees is her so happy on the day before her wedding, and he's like, man, I can't go mess this up for her and blah, blah, blah. But in reality, she wanted him and he didn't know. So he just assumed, you know, what he saw was her and her joy. And
Right.
you know, for people that battle with constant anxiety and paranoia and stuff, and I could personally attest, the overlay is a real thing. And 99.9% of the time, the things that we think might be happening, or someone's following us, or that person looked at me in a weird way, they weren't even looking at you. Or the weird way they are looking at you is, man, that guy reminds me of someone. But from a distance, it looks like a scowl, and you're like, what's this guy's fucking problem, man? Why is he looking at me like that? Because maybe he thinks that you're his roommate from 20 years ago. What, you know, right? But we think, oh God, did I look at his girlfriend when she went up to the counter? Does he think I'm checking? Like, what we do overlay, we stack, and
Right.
I mean, it's a disease that can get out of control really quick and
I think
really.
what you're saying too reminds me of the old story of like it was like the guy in the rowboat, and it's like the fog, and there's another rowboat that like comes, and I think it hits his rowboat, and the guy's like screaming. He's like, hey, you know, what the heck, you know, what the hell are you doing? You get out of the way. And he like the mist kind of clears, and he sees there was no one ever in the other rowboat.
Oh shit!
Sometimes the guy was like, you know, anger and like, you know, bitching
Yeah,
this guy, you know, this person,
yeah,
oh, like, what, you in my way? You hit my boat, and there was no one ever there. It was just that.
right,
It was just like, wow.
right,
You know,
right. And what if it was like a little girl in the rowboat or whatever, and she was lost, and her father just drowned, and she's just looking for her father, right? Like, how shitty is that? You know, and she's stupid asshole, I can't believe. And they're like, why are you crying? Sorry, my dad just drowned. Like, I'm just trying to find his body, dick.
but we do that too. We also connect stories like, you know,
Yeah.
like let's say if we're having a bad day, like, you know, say, oh, I'm having a bad day. And we say, look, I'm having a bad day. Then we end up like looking for things to go wrong too. You know, we kind of add that the story like that too. And, you know, we have this feeling like, you know, I have a feeling something, or we have that feeling like something bad's going to happen. And because we have that feeling, we kind of attract that. We kind of like, we look for that sometimes to kind of justify that thought, or look, oh, this is going to be a, you know, if I go to this party, it's going to be a bad time. And then you're thinking that you're going there, look, like, oh, look, that person just, you know, turned his back on me. He didn't say hi. When, you know, overlay, that could have been that person they didn't even notice you, or didn't recognize you, or had to go to the bathroom and turned around real fast.
A
But because you
hundred,
had that,
right? 100 other things.
because you already went in that preconceived notion, that feeling like, oh, this party is gonna be shit.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not gonna, you know, I'm looking to justify my feelings.
yeah.
You know, I'm looking at so you're trusting that feeling, and you're trying to make those things happen
Mm.
instead of just being aware of it and being like, okay, yeah, maybe I do feel like this party is gonna suck, but you know what? I'm gonna be open to it and go with open mind, and you know, maybe I don't. Maybe I meet somebody. Maybe I do a keg stand. I don't know. Who knows?
I will say that watching him in the video reminded me, in his posture, in his presence, in his delivery, that it's okay to slow down. It's okay
Yeah.
to give yourself, like, we're in that constant, I gotta respond to the text, I gotta do this, everything's fast,
It's
all the
okay to
information that we
pause.
receive is such overload. and
Right.
and in order to avoid the overlay, maybe what we need to do is just give ourselves some space to breathe. We don't have to talk quickly, we don't have to. If someone,
Yeah.
I really feel that if someone's looking at you and like, why, you know, are you calculating what to say? No, I'm just giving myself a moment to
It's
to
okay to
feel.
pause.
Right, man.
It's okay to pause.
And I don't think I grew up that way. I don't think I think like I needed an answer, you know, especially when your
Oh, yeah.
parents are coming at me like, tell me right now, like, you know, look at me when I'm talking to you and all this stuff, and you're just paralyzed, you're terrified, and you're like, you spit out something, you don't even have a chance to process your emotions because they're not okay to feel. Suck up those tears or whatever, all this stuff, all the baggage that comes with being
Well,
a kid. And
I think what you're saying too is when everything's sped up, you become reactive instead of responsive.
yes, thank you. Very
You
poetry
know, you're
snaps for
reactive.
that.
Everything's reactive. Everything's coming from a fight or flight kind of. You're in that fight or flight. You're like reactive. I gotta say, you know, now where it's like if you kind of pause, like,
Yeah.
okay, now I could respond to you. You know, I allowed for that feeling that I had. I allowed for my, you know, for this interaction. I gave it a took a breath. Now I could respond in a more mindful manner of, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we just the challenge is getting to a place of safety within yourself that it's okay to do that. Because for me personally, maybe I haven't always felt like I am allowed to have that time to respond, and
Right.
maybe because of survival instincts or whatever. In my personal experience, that's why I'm such a talker, is because I need to fill the space. I need to fill the space because the pauses and the moments of silence are the most scary, or something needs to be in there. Otherwise, something's going to go wrong. And when we can unprogram ourselves and unlearn that that's just coming from a place of trauma, and that it's okay to slow down and give yourself and others space, I think that's where the magic happens. Because when I watched him, even though I agree with all the things you were saying, it put me to sleep, whatever, there was something very, very magnetic about. He's not even. I wouldn't even look at him and say he's an old man. He's older, but he's not like an old.
72.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't look like that white,
Right.
withered, wrinkled. He's
He
taking
looks
good
good for
care.
72. For
Yeah,
72, he looks pretty good. I
right.
didn't think he was that old.
And maybe that's part of the secret to his aging success is just being present, and
Mhm.
everything that comes with that, and not being over here in the overlay, or allowing the overload to press down upon us so heavily, and just breathe space, and lift that off of our shoulders. And he does that in a very delicate way, just in just the way that he is. So that was inspiring for me to see him like
Very
that.
calm.
And yeah, to be gently
Yeah.
reminded that that's okay. And it really desire. I was like, I want to sit on stage and be as just cool and collective as him, and just be like, hey, this is my show, and I'm gonna say
So,
intuition
so are you
into
telling me? So you telling me you're gonna go out and buy a sweater vest tonight?
dude, I need to lose a few pounds before I feel like I could comfortably rock the sweater vest. I could do it, but it's something. It's an investment, so I don't want it to be too big. A sweater vest needs to be, like I feel like fit like nice and snug. So if I'm gonna buy one, I feel like I need to shave a few first. But it's an incentive for sure, because who doesn't want to rock a sweater vest? And eventually, I want a monocle too, just for
It's badass.
yeah, I do want a monocle and a top hat. But I mean, that's just for parties. So
Right.
tea parties. So I think it's a good play to wrap, unless you have some final thoughts.
I,
Um,
I mean, I agree with like a lot of stuff he says. You know, sometimes you gotta allow for those feelings to come forward, acknowledge them, and see where they derive from. Are they deriving from the past, from a trauma, or is it from a higher space, a higher intuition? You know, give yourself a lot, like you said, a chance to pause before you act, before you speak. You know, and give yourself that space, give yourself that opportunity to be responsive instead of reactive.
Man, we got to teach this stuff in schools. Stuff like this is what our youth really needs, man. Just it's such a tool for the Batman belt that could carry you a long way and make your life extraordinary, different, more peaceful, prosperous, et cetera, et cetera. Um, the podcast that remains nameless, only because this is our pilot performance, open for suggestions. We might post this after we review it. We don't even know. We might just look at it and learn from it, and take our time and give ourselves the space to breathe into it and decide what we want to do, how we want to do it. We're going to eventually graduate our technology. Ray's using a phone. I'm using an old ass laptop with a crazy little meteorite spaceball microphone that surely needs an upgrade, but we'll get there. Baby steps, and we will breathe into a constantly evolving and elevating and expanding series of sorts, if you will. So I'm just
Yeah.
going to say I'm John with a J. It's been a pleasure to rock with you, my friend
Right.
Ray. And
Namaste.
and we will see you on another day. We won't always
All
rhyme,
right.
but today, what the hey? All right. And I'm going to close this out in 3, 2, fun.